Hello, hello.
Test, test, test.
Good morning, everyone. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Make sure the phone. Say mine. Okay.
It's hard to be here, but we are going to, let me see, before you get into.
Open meetings, let us take a moment to recite, we did that. Preamble, in compliance with the notification requirements of the Ohio Open Meeting Law, notice of the meeting has been publicly posted and major public media has been notified. NOACA conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Members will raise their hand to move a second or speak to a motion. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. If any member feels the need to abstain from any vote due to a conflict of interest, he or she should state their intention to abstain when the matter is introduced by the chair for all presentations. For the record, the subsequently that members shall not participate in any discussion of matter for which a conflict exists. According to Robert's Rules, absence from a meeting does not require a member to abstain from voting on the minutes. If a member still wishes to abstain, for he or she should state their intention for the record. For the benefit of our guests from the public and the recordings of this meeting, please be sure to speak into the microphone. The microphones can be turned on and off using the button on the top of them. At this time, I would like to invite members of our State House delegation to say a few words at the podium before we move on to the regular order of business. We appreciate all the hard work and support from our Northeast Ohio State House delegation, and we look forward into continuing to work with them to improve our region's transportation system. So whoever would like to take the microphone first, introduce yourselves and away we go.
There we go. Good evening, everyone. I am State Representative Bride Rose Sweeney, and very grateful to have this brief opportunity to connect with you all. I am the state representative for a portion of the western portion of Cuyahoga County, and proud to be the ranking member on the Ohio Finance Committee that I like to say is objectively the most important committee because it's responsible for spending all of our hard-earned taxpayer dollars. But with that, we also deal with, outside of the operating budget, the transportation budget. And I really just wanted to extend my sincere gratitude and thanks for this body and specifically your leadership at a time when it's just the reality that there's a lot of, from the federal level and also the state level, of having cuts within a lot of different organizations, a lot of different programs. But when it came to our transportation budget, we actually secured one of the largest increases this past budget in public transit. And part of that was because of this work. And to me, transportation is not Republican or Democrat. It's just about making sure that our constituents have the ability to move and get where they need to do in the most efficient way possible. And that is crucial, especially to our economy and our business community. I don't think that would have been possible if it wasn't for organizations like this that does this work. And the last thing I want to say is there has been a lot of conversations at the state level of the role that you all play of MPOs. And I can say that within my past 8 years of working down in Columbus, having experts who are on the ground, people who are connected more closely to their communities, are the ones that should be able and be responsible for some of these very important regional decisions. And I hope we continue to work to have that be the prevailing viewpoint down in Columbus, that this is not a us versus them, but it's organizations like NOACA, the MORPCs, is working in conjunction with the legislature. That's, I think, the best way forward. And I hope that will continue, but really appreciate your work. And I think there's a lot more good things that can come. Thanks.
Thank you.
Juanita O. Brent, State Representative, House District 18. Thank you guys again for always inviting us and welcome us into this place for NOACA and for all of your members. This year has definitely been a year I would like to call collaboration. No matter if you've been in my district or not in my district, I'm just grateful for our relationships that you guys have been having with our General Assembly members here in our area, of making sure that we are all informed about what's going on so we can better represent you here at the State House. Like my ranking member said, this year for transportation in the operating budget was crucial, even when it comes to making sure that people have access to those electric vehicle grants for charging stations. I'm glad we are pushing that here through our regional operations and other things when it comes to transportation, or even when it comes to our sewer district, of what we're trying to do with that, because we do not want people to have flooding in their homes. But whatever it is, you guys are always welcome with us to work with us. Just to pivot off a little bit, is many things that we are all working together, but one thing the state is not doing as well, and we always need your help with, is working particularly on property tax. This might not be an issue of NOACA specifically, but definitely we need your push to work towards that. And we're not particularly working too hard on increasing the local government fund, even though we should be. But I know that's an important piece for everybody here in this room. So my name is Juanita Brent, and I'm so glad to be here as your state representative.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm Eric Sinnenberg, State Representative, District 21, which is Beechwood, Euclid, South Euclid, Lyndhurst, University Heights, and a little bit of Cleveland, the Collinwood neighborhood. Thanks for inviting me. This is my first board meeting. However, I have been here in the last year to meet with your government relations team. They are doing a very good job on your behalf. And I thank you all on the board for what you do, because we know we need to do more regionalism and regional planning. And NOACA is sort of at the tip of that spear, leading in that regard. My prior experience was on Beechwood City Council before I was in the State House. So and Beechwood is very fortunate. They have a good amount of general revenue fund money, and they have a healthy balance. But even in Beechwood, these issues with our aging infrastructure, our aging roads, bridges, our lack of rail transit in the state of Ohio. I'm very aware of how those issues play out and how we really need to start planning ahead better in the 21st century to update our aging infrastructure. And so something that I'm very aware of, although at the State House, I haven't focused on it as much as I used to when I was on City Council, but certainly something that is always on my mind. And I know that you all are leading in that area, and appreciate what you do on this board, and thank you for having me. Oh, and sorry, Tristan Rader, one of our colleagues, Rep. Tristan Rader, was here earlier. He had to leave, but I wanted you all to know that that he was here. Senator Smith will now update you.
Hi, everyone. State Senator Ken Smith from the 21st District, represent most of the east side suburbs of Cuyahoga County and about 25% of the city of Cleveland. Glad to see so many faces that I've been able to work shoulder to shoulder with on these issues. But somebody here actually identified me as Senator Serino. So perhaps I haven't had enough meetings with you all. So let me just tell you the secret way to reach out to any of the Ohio Senate if you wanted to schedule with me, which is our last name at ohiosenate.gov. So if you would like to sit down with me at some point in the future, my office is smith@ohiosenate.gov. And now you secretly know how to get to send emails to all, not only myself, but all my other 32 colleagues in the Ohio Senate. I'm a Levin School grad. I got a master's degree from there, did PhD studies in economic development. So I am secretly a planner at heart who's in the Ohio legislature. And so I would be I'm always interested in these meetings just because of the policy nerd that resides deep within my soul still. So hats off to all of you. Thanks for your dedication and continued work to make this region one of the strongest it possibly can be in the nation. And my salute also to your leader, Grace Colucci. And thank you all for the opportunity to speak before you. And we hope you have a great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we give the state representatives a little round of applause? Item number 2, committee reports, external affairs, finance and audit committee, governance committee, planning and program. Okay, go ahead.
Just a quick report, Mr. Chair. We did meet, and I think a notable outcome of our meeting on governance has to do with possibility of developing an aviation committee or subcommittee of this group, particularly as conversations about Burke are moving and potentially the change of land use there. We're talking to all 5 counties about how we can be a good reliever system working as an efficient network. So I think that'll be forthcoming out of the governance committee as some kind of aviation committee or subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you. Good point. Planning and programming committee, policy committee. The summaries of all these committees can be found in the packet. We'll move on to item number 3, public comment on the agenda items. Has anyone signed in? No one has signed in. Okay, item number 4, executive director's report.
Good morning, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to take the microphone and give you a few words. First of all, I wanted to mention, I'm going to go backwards a little. There, right here. As you know, I have orientation meetings with all new board members, and one of our new board members that I had an orientation with suggested that perhaps we should read the vision statement at every board meeting. We have it in the slide deck, but I do want to just take 1 second to go through that. NOACA will strengthen regional cohesion, preserve existing infrastructure, and build a sustainable multimodal transportation system. And why? To support economic development and enhance quality of life in Northeast Ohio. This vision statement came from the board. We worked with Parsons Brinkerhoff to develop it, who was an outside consultant. We as staff use it and the remaining components of the regional strategic plan to guide our work. So just wanted to let you know that I do listen to board members. It was a great suggestion, and so I would like to remind us of that vision statement periodically. All right, so I'm going to go through this very quick. In terms of the news, we have been in the news a lot since the last meeting in January. Primarily in 3 areas. One is the Brook Park Brown Stadium's infrastructure. It's a lot of news articles and radio and TV reports. Ratification, which we will continue to talk about, I believe, today. And then some NOACA-funded projects. Back to the reason we're here. We are here to plan for regional projects and then support them in getting done by helping to fund them. We had a successful GoHio commute campaign, being able to offset carbon, which is important in our air quality work. External engagement, some of the things that I've been up to over the last 2 months. I went to the NARC, which is the National Association of Regional Councils, their National Conference of Regions, which was in Washington. We spent a lot of time on the BASICS Act, which is the proposal to Congress of legislation that is relevant to local governments. It is part of a consortium of organizations that worked to develop this this proposal, and we will be discussing it in great detail on our Transportation Day on April 1st. So keep that on your calendar, and I know there's a slide here later that will remind you of that. I participated in a panel with ODOT, with the Turnpike Commission, about funding and budget forecasting for transportation. That was for the WTS, which is Women in Transportation. I participated in the 2026 Safe Road Summit. We were asked and able to participate in a session that focused on a national perspective in safety and highlighted the work that we are doing here in Northeast Ohio as exemplary. We also were able to participate in a session that we submitted an abstract for, and that's Vision Zero. And then we were able to meet yesterday with all of the participants in the CMAQ round and get the project sponsors moving earlier to begin their project work that has to move through ODOT and some other process points. Just wanting to make sure that we're moving the projects across the finish line. Legislative and funding issues, I mentioned Transportation Day. Please put that on your calendar. There's an RSVP that we would like you to submit. And again, we're going to have speakers from not only National Association of Regional Councils and the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations that we are part of, but also NACO, which is the National Association of Counties, NLC, the National League of Cities. And so the LOT Coalition focuses on local government officials in transportation. Capitol Hill, we were in Washington last week. So myself and our government affairs team, and I would like to thank Bev Bertzloff and Andrew Bean for their terrific work in setting up the environment for us to participate in many meetings directly with some of the representatives, and in some cases participating with them in their activities. We also think that was a successful week. We highlighted, in addition to the Basics Act, some of the important projects that we're working on here in Northeast Ohio. We also went last week to USDOT. So we met with the Assistant Secretary for Intergovernmental Affairs, and we discussed items related to surface transportation reauthorization, the role of MPOs in federal transportation policy, which deals directly with the issue that we are facing here in Ohio. And then we talked about passenger rail opportunities. That meeting that was organized with Melissa Newton, she also was able to include many of the assistant secretaries from the areas such as Federal Highway, Federal Transportation, Federal Aviation. So we had the gamut of representatives, and we were thrilled that they gave us the audience. So they listened to us, they gave us a really good time to explain it. And for the most part, I was pleased because some of them were already familiar with us. Overall work program, we're getting a lot of things done. I want to put the tip on your radar. We are starting the development of the 2028 to 31 TIP. This is the allocation or awarding of NOACA funds to the local communities. So this is NOACA funds. We start with the process of preparing recommendations or priorities for discussion. We'll send those out to you probably the end of this month, beginning of next month. We ask that you, and we send them to all of the mayors and the elected officials within the region, so not just board members, but we send it out to everyone. There's usually 500 to 600 projects on that list. NOACA will not have the ability to fund all of those projects, so we usually try to concentrate on the top 25%, work with you to make sure that those are the right projects, allow you to move something in if we don't have it on the list and it meets all of the criteria. So we're going to start those discussions with you, and then hopefully this will come to the board for approval in September. 5310 program, I just want to let you know that this is open for application. So your communities, as well as the transit systems, as well as nonprofits and even profit organizations are eligible for this funding. Predominantly, we provide a formula funding to the transit systems, mostly Lake Tran and GCRTA. They get at least 50% of the funds. Then the other 50% is through the application process. Nonprofits often rise to the top of that list, like STC, the Senior Transportation Committee, or that provides rides to seniors. But we also have nonprofits such as the Cleveland Sight Center or other organizations that apply. And then we have had recently taxi cab companies that have applied, and we have been able to fund them because they partnered with one of your counties to get vans that were equipped for disabled and senior riders, and worked with you to deploy that within your communities. So it is open, and the applications are due by April 24th. So we just ask that you help us get the word out. I-71 Crossroads Regional Transportation Study. So this is otherwise known as the I-71 corridor between Cuyahoga County and Medina County. This is a very important project that we've been working on, and I wanted to give you a quick update. The board approved about a year ago, nearly $1 million to conduct this study. This study was a result of some conflict between lower Cuyahoga County and upper Medina County on an interchange that was being proposed in Brunswick. As a result, we are doing what we need to do as the MPO, which is to study the problem and not immediately jump to a solution. So we don't know what the solution is, but we've been studying the problem. We have had public meetings where we completed the existing condition assessments, shared that with communities, received all their public comment. The consultants are currently working on the alternatives. So there will be several alternatives identified as possible solutions, and the public as well as the board will be able to see the benefits and the costs of each of those alternatives, and then help make a decision as to which is the best. So just wanted to keep that on your radar, and we will bring that to you when we make more progress. But there will be a public meeting probably in April, I think the latter part of April, to present these alternatives to the public for public comment. So just making you aware of that as well. Brownfield's revolving loan fund, just want to make the board aware that we have applied for another $1 million in supplemental funds. Actually, it's due next week, so we will apply, but I do know that staff has done a great job already of putting the materials together. We currently have received nearly $3 million and have allocated half of it. We continue to get positive remarks from US EPA, and will continue to build up the revolving loan fund for our region. And I think one of the things, since we're talking about state government today, that I need to mention, one of the great benefits of us having this revolving loan program with federal funds, it can be used as match to the state brownfield funds. So the locals would not have to provide match themselves. They could come through this fund to get those dollars. The Aerozone Teddy, which is Transportation for Economic Development Initiative. We held a stakeholder meeting on February 17th. We will have another public meeting in April, and here too, similar to the Crossroads study, we have just completed a existing condition analysis. We are looking at, it's not so much alternatives here because it's not a specific transportation solution we're looking for, but rather how to best utilize the transportation infrastructure in the footprint of the Aerozone, and how, relative to land use, and how to ensure that infrastructure is up to par with what the land uses are or will be in the future. This is the footprint of the airport, NASA, and surrounding communities. This also, just coincidentally very timely, now includes the Browns Stadium development, so it takes on even more significance. Code of Regulations, just wanted to announce that resolutions 2026-001 and 002 that were adopted at the beginning of January, I believe it was January 9th at a special meeting. We were waiting for ratifications. We have now completed that process, so all counties have ratified the resolutions, and they are therefore now in effect. The two changes that are significant, members and alternate qualifications, so there's criteria for who can be an alternate, and changes to the membership supporting more individual selection of board members by each of the counties, so returning that authority to them. And then one announcement, Mayor Bibb has been announced as the co-chair of the National Housing Crisis Task Force. They've welcomed 9 mayors to its advisory council, and it's great to have the city of Cleveland in the spotlight, not only in the spotlight nationally, but leading nationally. So congratulations to Mayor Bibb and the constituents of Cleveland and the region. Public comment, we continue to take public comment on the electric vehicle charging station installation phase 2. This is required by the federal government as part of the environmental process. Next meeting is June 12th. Although there is a question about the possibility of changing this meeting date, because it's been brought to my attention that conflicts with a trip to Washington with GCP, the Greater Cleveland Partnership, that many of you are going on. So when we get to another item which changes the September board meeting, we'll talk about this too. That is it. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate that and look forward to continuing the rest of the meeting.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, the consent agenda. The following items have been recommended for approval by the appropriate standing committees and subsequently recommended for placement on the consent agenda by the executive committee. These items will be approved by a single vote. Well,
yeah.
Okay, go ahead and read it. Single motion and voted on. Any member that may removal of any item from the consent agenda without debate and without stating a reason. The removed item will then be considered separately during the meeting. Would any member like to remove an item for the individual discussion and action?
Before they do, can I say something?
Sure.
So just wanting to remind you that we agreed last year at the end of the year to begin a consent agenda. So this is the first meeting where we are using the consent agenda. So we should give ourselves a little bit of grace that we're going to work through this process. And so to the point of the chair, all of the items that are in the consent agenda are before you, and they will be done in one motion. And as requested by the chair, this is the time to bring forward any items that you want removed. We then have a separate action item list that will be taken individually.
Okay. Well, with no comments, we'll move to, can I have a motion to approve all these items of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, actually, legal counsel says for the record, we should read in to the record
All the items?
all the items, correct.
Okay, item A is minutes of the January 23rd, 26th Board of Directors meeting. B, resolution 2026-009, ratifying updates to the regional strategy for coordinating funding opportunities for the third quarter state fiscal year of 2026. C, resolution for the 2026-010, approving additional NOACA funds for the City of Chardon Traffic Signal Group. It's an upgrade project. D, resolution 2026-011, approving the third quarter State Fiscal Year 2026 Project Planning Review. E, Resolution 2026-012, approving the third quarter State Fiscal 2026 Plan and the TIP amendments. F, Resolution for 2026-013, approving the State Fiscal Year 2026 Transportation and Livable Communities Initiative, TLCI, Program Recommendations. Okay,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
I move that we approve the consent agenda and the items that you just reflected on the record.
okay,
I have a second.
pick one. Mary. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion is approved. We'll go to item 6, action items. Resolution 2026-014, resolution of appreciation to the Councilwoman Stephanie House Jones. And presenter would be Grace Galucci.
Good morning again. When outgoing board members, or either their terms are up or they move on, we like to make sure that we are recognizing them for serving on our board. And Stephanie House Jones is one of those people. She has completed her term on the board at the end of December, and we'd like to offer that appreciation. With Stephanie House Jones, not only was she a board member, she was committee chair for the External Affairs Committee. And I want to add some personal commentary that Councilwoman Stephanie House Jones, before she was councilwoman and on the board, which she brought significant value to the organization, she was a state representative, again, going back to state rep days. And she was a representative that we absolutely could count on, and worked tirelessly on behalf of NOACA at the state level. There were many times where I personally had to testify in front of various committees in Columbus, and those committees that she either was on, probably didn't lead because I think she's the opposing party, but the times that she was there and was able to listen carefully to what we were proposing or we were defending or we were supporting, and really took the time in advance of those hearings to understand the issue and to be able to respond to it in a way that was helpful to NOACA. So I did want to recognize her for her work at the state level, in addition to her support at on the NOACA board. On the NOACA board, I will say my experience has also been that she regularly extended herself to ensure she understood what was on the agenda, got many calls from her. So she was able to take a position that was respectful of the entire board, but yet still support her constituency. So we'd like to recognize Councilwoman Jones. I think you are here. I saw you and I greeted you. Come on up.
Make a motion.
Mr. Chair, you need a motion?
Oh, yeah.
So moved.
A motion's been made on this resolution. Seconded, Bonnie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Not real if you don't have a picture.
And put it on Facebook.
Congratulations.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful meeting. God bless.
Congratulations. Next, we have Resolution 26-015, State Fiscal Year SFY 27 Overall Work Program, OWP and Budget. This is, I'm going to introduce Grace Galucci for presenters, and Ronnie Blackshear and Deb Wardell.
So the overall work program represents NOACA's operating budget. It is the document that identifies the daily work that we do at NOACA on an annual basis. So it takes the strategies that we have in the long-range plan and in the regional strategic plan, translates them into their financial implications and their annual in their annual steps. So this is an opportunity for us not only to approve the 2027 overall work program, but I would like to say it's an opportunity to recognize NOACA staff for all of the work that they do. Ronnie Blackshear and Deb Wardell certainly do a lot of work and partner with the senior leadership to develop the budget. And that alone is worth some thanks. But every single day, all of NOACA staff at all levels work tirelessly. Their commitment is profound to doing the work of the region. What you have in the overall work program are all of the projects we undertake, programs we undertake, who does them, what are the goals of those programs, what are the tasks of those programs, what are the deadlines and the milestones of those programs. It's a very comprehensive document, and then we bring back to you in the first quarter of the next year, of the ending part of this document, we bring to you a completion report. So we let you know the progress that was made on this, and we generally complete high 80% to mid 90% of all of the work. So I look forward to having that discussion probably in September. But right now, let's give a round of applause to the NOACA staff for all the work that they do. And I'll turn it over to Ronnie to go through the OWP. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Director Galucci. For the record, Ronnie Blackshear, NOACA staff. This is a request that the Board of Directors to adopt the following resolution, which is 2026-015, which approves the state fiscal year overall work program, 2027 overall work program and budget. Previous action was recommended by the Executive Committee at its February 13th meeting. The budget portion was recommended by Finance and Audit at its January 30th meeting, and the work program overview was presented to the Planning and Programming Committee at its January 30th meeting. The OWP is a federally required document. It's developed annually. It represents NOACA's budget and guide for transportation, environmental, and economic development planning work. It includes detailed descriptions of tasks, work elements, and a summary of the budget used to fund those planning activities. New initiatives, ongoing activities, the budget, and a framework for the long-range plan implementation are a part of the development of the OWP. At any given time, we are working on 3 work programs in the year. This is a timeline of how those things work. August to December, we begin work on the new OWP and budget. January 30th of this year, we had our Finance and Audit budget was presented to the Finance and Audit Committee. February 13th, it went to the Executive Committee. March 6th, a draft was submitted to ODOT and FHWA and FTA at the federal level. March 13th is we're here for the board action. And the final work program will be sent to ODOT and the feds, and it's due on May 8th. All 7 divisions are part of the working on the OWP, the executive, programming, environmental planning, transportation planning and engineering, public affairs, Administrative Services, and Finance. Each of the divisions have their activities. For the sake of time, I won't read everything here, but under the Executive Division, Government Affairs and Research on Federal and State Policy Funding, provide legal services and guidance, support board committees, subcommittees, and councils. And this information is also in your memo. Under the Programming Division, administer the TLCI program and solicitation, monitor capital programs performance measures, submit an annual completion report. Under Environmental Planning, publish annual technical reports and guides intended to educate the public on regional air quality trends, provide technical support for air quality outreach and public education. Continues on the Environmental Planning, coordinate with Ohio EPA to work to improve regional water quality, continuing managing and maintaining the Brownfields Revolving Loan Fund. Under Transportation Engineering, manage the NOACA EV charging stations program, develop community safety reports, evaluate the 2020 to 2030 congestion management plan. Transportation modeling, perform sub-regional transportation analysis, update the functional classification system, update and maintain the NOACA GIS portal. Under Transportation Planning, maintain the NOACA Activate plan, maintain the level of traffic stress, LTS, for cycling and county bike maps, manage the TLCI program. Under Public Affairs, communication and marketing strategies to increase awareness, understanding of NOACA's vision, mission, and goals, create reports that analyze public policy related to planning priorities of the region. Under Administrative Services, provide building reception and general administrative services, manage information technology resources, infrastructure, and security. Under Finance, oversee financial management, payroll, receipts, payments, reports, and accounting for all local, grant, and other revenue sources. Facilitate annual audit of NOACA's financial statements. And for the budget portion, I'll turn it over to Deb.
Good morning, Deborah Wardell, the Director of Finance here at NOACA. NOACA's operating budget is projected to decrease by 8.7 million or 25% over the current fiscal year 26. The pass-through budget is showing a significant decrease as well, as the MERAD and infra grant for the Irishtown Bend will be totally expended by the end of this fiscal year, leaving the 5310 and Brownfield programs in the pass-through budget for next fiscal year. The standard budget assumptions have remained unchanged, with authorization for 47 staff members, a possible 3% total merit increase for staff, and health insurance increasing by 3% for the first 6 months of fiscal year 27. The revenue sources that fund the NOACA operating budget are broken down into local, state, and federal funding. As you can see, the federal funding accounts for 92% of NOACA's funding sources. Taking a closer look at the breakdown of the federal funding, for the second consecutive year, FHWA, providing the CFI grant, is the largest federal source. CPG funding will provide 16% for fiscal year 27, with CMAQ, STBG, FTA, and EPA rounding out the federal revenues. The operating capital expenditures, which account for 57% of the fiscal year 27 budget, are predominantly due to the CFI grant. It also includes the $400,000 for crowdfunding for the Irishtown Bend. Salaries are the second highest projected category at 18% or 27% when adding in fringe benefits. Comparing actual expenditures from fiscal year 25 and those projected for 26 and 27, we can see several trends occurring. Salaries and benefits have recently been increasing at an average rate of 17%. This is primarily due to an increased number of staff members, promotions and merit raises, and finally, health insurance cost increases. Contractual service costs are expected to decrease by 32% from fiscal year 26. This is in part because with the increased staffing, NOACA is able to conduct work that was previously completed through contractual services. Occupancy and operating costs have stabilized over the last few years. However, we are seeing the effects of the national trends of rising utility and service and repair costs. The operating capital expenses have also normalized, but we do anticipate the need at NOACA for some parking lot, roof and window repairs, and possibly replacements in the near future. And finally, under the other capital category, this accounts for the anticipated crowdfunding revenue for the Irishtown Bend and those expenditures, as well as the $14.7 million for the CFI EV charging station project.
Public comment was open beginning on February 9th until today's meeting. This is the board action for today. And like I said, the final document will be sent to ODOT and the feds on May 8th. And that's the final document. Again, this is, action item is the approval of Resolution 2026-015, which approves the state fiscal year 2027 OWP and budget. I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions at this time? Go ahead.
I just had one question. I know last year we talked a lot about vacancies, which I think you guys done a really good job to fill a lot of those. Can you, do you have a number of the 47 that are budgeted, how many vacancies you have currently?
I will ask our HR director, Lisa Durkin, to approach and be able to address that question. Definitely, we are very close to the trends that we had prior to COVID. But Lisa?
Good morning. For the record, Lisa Durkin, Associate Director of Human Resources. Thank you. Currently, I, off the top of my head, can list 7 full-time vacancies. And it could be more than that. I apologize. I don't have the, that includes a recent 2, Grace, that we have not yet posted for. Off the top of my head, I don't have the org chart memorized, but the 7 that I'm aware of off the top of my head. Now, we have just in the past month and a half really focused on recruitment, and specifically in our transportation planning and engineering department. And on April 21st, we are welcoming a senior planner for engineering. And during that timeframe, we will also be welcoming a transportation planner 3 for modeling. And we are currently interviewing for the other positions. I will just add that we are focusing not on swiftness as much as we are focusing on recruiting for the right needs and fit. Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Thank you. I know that there has been some annual carryover for the last 2 years in the sub-area and corridor study line item, and just wonder about NOACA's plans to put those funds to work in the coming year.
So the sub-area and corridor studies are where we have the I-71 crossroads and the Aerozone. So those 2 projects together are close to $1.5 million. And they were never intended to be completed in 1 fiscal year. They would take at least 2 fiscal years, so there was always expected to be that carryover.
Any other questions? Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Back there in the middle. Thomas? Can't see it. Okay. You made the motion and then,
Second.
okay, second by Chris Renane. Okay. There's been a motion and a second. Back to discussion. Any more discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah, because this is ultimately submitted to ODOT for approval, I'm going to be abstaining as I normally do. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion's approved. Okay, we'll move down to Resolution 2026-016, second quarter state fiscal year, SFY 2026, project planning reviews, public infrastructure improvements in Brook Park. The presenters will be Ed May and Ali Makarachi.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Board of Directors. I'm Ed May with the NOACA staff and presenting item 2026-016, second quarter project planning review for this project. The action being requested from the board is that the Board of Directors adopt Resolution 2026-016, which acknowledges that the proposed public infrastructure improvements in Brook Park has completed project planning review, subject to conditions, which we'll go into later, for the second quarter of state fiscal year 2026. This action has been recommended by the Transportation Subcommittee and the Planning and Programming Committee. The next few slides I'm going to share with you are a recap of our process, the proposed project, and then a timeline recapping what's transpired leading up to today's action. Then I will turn it over to Dr. Akarachi for the NOACA analysis. So the purpose of NOACA's project planning review is to review and assess whether a proposed project helps to achieve NOACA's vision and goals, and to make sure that project is consistent with NOACA planning requirements and other oversight agency requirements with respect to eligibility and requirements that are placed on it by Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration, and the Ohio Department of Transportation. The proposed project is being processed in accordance with the project planning review process. It's been reviewed by the staff, presented to advisory councils, subcommittees, and committees, and has been circulated for intergovernmental review and consultation, and is posted on our website for public review and comment. So this illustration is also contained in your materials on page 87. This is depicting the conceptual plan and schematic layout of the Brook Park public infrastructure improvements with all buildable units represented. So this proposed improvements are broken down into buildable units. Again, the project summary, comments, and illustrations are contained in your materials on pages 78 through 99. I'm going to run through this real quickly. This slide lists the buildable units, starting from the upper left of the slide, moving from top to bottom and then left to right. Shown here is buildable unit number 1. That's the I-71 northbound exit ramp improvements involving an additional left turn lane to the Snow Road I-71 northbound exit ramp and modifications to the northbound Cloverleaf entrance ramp. Buildable unit number 2 involves improvements to the I-71 southbound exit ramps, to Snow Road westbound, and to Engle Road southbound. And then also includes the addition of an I-71 southbound exit ramp flyover bridge to Ring Road. Buildable unit number 3 is the Snow Road Connector Road and 5 Points improvements. This is providing access for Snow Road traffic to Engle Road, and then involves modifying the bridge on Snow Road and includes improvements to Snow Road moving from State Route 237 and relocating 5 Points Road. Moving back up to the right there on the top is Engle Road South widening and realignment. This will involve widening and realignment of about 1,300 feet of Engle Road. And then buildable unit number 5 is Engle Road North widening and improvements. This involves about 5,300 feet of roadway improvements widening Ring Road from 6 lanes to 7 lanes south of Hummel Road. And then the buildable unit number 6 is a pedestrian facility and bridge. This is to provide access for pedestrians utilizing off-site parking. So this is just a timeline recapping what's transpired leading up to today. In August, we presented this project to the Transit Council, Advisory Council, Pedestrian Advisory Council. In September, this was shared with the Transportation Subcommittee, who recommended it to the Planning and Programming Committee. Also, we shared it with our Business, Community, and Rural Advisory Councils in September. On October 10th, the project was presented to the Planning and Programming Committee. The committee recommended there that the project be recommitted to the Transportation Subcommittee, subject to review of severity of congestion during major events and possible resolutions, including impact to surrounding communities, access to Hopkins Airport and Southwest General Hospital during events, and then looking at regional impact and collaboration. Then on December 5th, we presented it again to the Business, Community, and Rural Advisory Councils, followed by the Transportation Subcommittee. On December 19th, they recommended it to the Planning and Programming Committee. And then finally, on January 30th, it was presented for action to the Planning and Programming Committee and recommended for approval. And then we had also, as we always do, presented it to the Executive Committee on February 13th for their recommendation as well to the board, which brings us to today. Now I will turn this presentation over to Dr. Makarachi to share with you the NOACA analysis.
Good morning. Thank you, Ed. I have to say in the beginning of this is the, project like major projects, but we have done before several major projects, and we took the same approach and procedure for this. So usually the county, city, or sponsor provide the data, and in this case, the city of Brook Park and their consultants provided project-related input data and information we needed. Then our team conducted an independent technical analysis. So in this process, we looked at 2 scenarios. One is a base, we call it, and that's the no development, and we look at the 2030. That's the time, basically, the stadium is gonna be built. So that was as a benchmark, and that's the no development and no infrastructure improvements. So that's as a base, we compare with a built scenario in terms of the traffic analysis. Then the other scenario was the stadium development and infrastructure. As Ed mentioned, we added this to our planning tools. So I just mentioned this first assumption. Again, as I mentioned, these information are from the sponsor, and that's the stadium will have 65,000 capacity, and we assume that weekday event happens, not weekend. Weekend has got low traffic, and we assume the weekday event, and that's 65,000. Then usually people travel to the game not alone. Usually most people travel family or friends. So we use some, 2.91 as each car. So divided that by each the car. Then we have got from 3 to 7, people come to the game, and after 7, they leave the game. Why we are choosing these periods? Because our travel demand model has got 5 periods, splits the 24 hours into 5 periods. One of the periods, PM peak period, is from 3 to 7, and the nighttime is from 7 to 3 o'clock in the morning and comes back 3 to 6 and 6 to 9 and so on. So that's what you see the numbers here. The assumption is 15% come before 3 p.m. for a game and 85% come during the PM peak. And why is important? Because the PM peak period is the time people actually leave the work and go home, and that's the most congested period of time in our region. And obviously after 7, when they leave, that's not much activity in terms of the daily travel is mainly the trips from stadium back to home. So then we asked the question of where are these people? Generally, they come from for the game. And the best source for the information the consulting firms provided to us, it was the season tickets. And that then we split that to the each county, each TA, zip code. Then we went to the traffic analysis zone neighborhood. And what you see on this map is depends on where they come from. Usually based on the question I was asked last week, about 1/3 is from Cuyahoga County. About 1/3 is the other 6 county, including Portage and Summit, and 1/3 from outside. So when this, these are the origin of trips for to come to the event, and then the destination is the parking lot. The development is going to provide about 12,000 spaces, but the rest is going to be a neighborhood. And this map shows where they're going to park roughly around about. And then I will talk about the walking distance from these parking lots to the stadium. Last week we had a workshop about this, and some people came, and the feedback we got, there were some cities, they were concerned about the impact of this in their city, apart from city of Brook Park. And then we went and looked at this influence area, and we have got this for each city on this map. We provide the impacts, and I have to say here, one of my colleagues, because we had a very short period of time from Tuesday afternoon to this morning. So one of my colleagues, Derek Taylor, I have to appreciate, he made the maps for this. And then because I was working on something else, so these are, you'll see the following maps are made by his team, and it was a fast, basically within a couple of days, we provided this information. But just one thing, what we are looking at in terms of the comparison, we are talking about the auto and truck delay, and then volume capacity ratios. And I have to emphasize the capacity, what I mean is not a storage capacity, is a road capacity, which means how much they can process the cars within a period of time, an hour, 3 hours, whatever. So then there were 2 locations they were concerned. One was the airport, and one was the Southwest General. We look at those, and we used our travel forecasting model. And at the macro level, I will show you, we use the micro level as well. Now, one thing out of this, we have to say when we talk about capacity, especially on the 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., what you see on this map, it shows the roads of the capacity of the roads. For example, I-480 westbound on this period can process or can pass through about 30,000 cars. And so based on that, this is the capacity we have got. And then the next, or I can see, about 30,000 on the highways, because it's mostly 4 lanes and for 4 hours. So then this map shows what, I think I missed, no, that's correct. This map shows on the purple color is a daily traffic. So for example, on the I-71 South, we have got 22,000. Usually, according to our model, they go use this road, go home or leave the work, and that's 22,550 about. So the interperiod, and the blue one shows how much actually added to this additional trips, which is for the game and for that event. So if we look at the percentage and compare with the capacity of the road, you can see what the example I gave you, all of them is 84% of the I-71 southbound will be used, which is at capacity, and then the level of service D, lower than capacity, or 83% on the I-480 westbound, 65% I-480 eastbound, and this is actually is good to use what we have got in terms of infrastructure and highway in our region, and this stadium we will use more optimize using of this facility we have got.
So Ali, can I interrupt for a minute? So just to be clear, what this is demonstrating is that based on our independent modeling, the highway network has sufficient capacity to deal with the traffic that is the incremental traffic from the new development.
That's correct. The additional we have got on the blue, I showed the numbers on the
Right.
percentage
So
of
I'm
the
just going to
blue.
review that for a quick.
The system of highway around the stadium and in our region can handle that.
Right, so just back to your example of I-480 West, which is all the way to the upper right of your diagram. In the purple, you have 73%.
Yeah.
That represented the, if you go back,
2030 happens every day.
22,000 out of the 30,000.
30,000.
That's
300, yes.
capacity. So 30,000 is capacity. The 73 represents the 22,000 that are the current cars traveling through there. The 10% represents 2,200 cars that are the incremental increase based on the development, and that still only takes you to 83% capacity.
Which is level of service D, and as actually is optimal level of service to use the highways.
And that's important too, that it's an acceptable level.
Yeah.
And that's the case for all of those interstates.
Yes. Then we look at this area, and what you see there is the circled as an interchange and intersection is a concern area after these people coming up. Obviously, when they get closer to the game and the more cars, so you can see. So we are looking at this, each community, as I mentioned, on the maps. So starting from, the only thing is, Brea. So what we have got, the yellow, which is very low, less than 10% in terms of capacity impacts on this area. The only concern is a little bit of moderate, about less than increasing some percentage, 50% on the blue. There's only one location on Brea. By the way, any of the mayors or communities and cities, they want this, we can send them the base, event, and the difference maps. All this is done, as I said, Eric has done all these maps, and he can forward it and send it to everybody on any committee they are interested. This is the Brooklyn, and there's only one location with a yellow impact, minor impact there. City of Cleveland has got some on the borderline with the Brook Park, and a couple of, as you see on the map, yellow area, which is about adding the 10% to the capacity, to the volume for the capacity. So the next is the city of Fairview Park. Again, you can see these are the map I showed you earlier on from the influence area, and these are the cities around the Brook Park. And Middleburg Heights, there's only one interchange there important, that's the Middleburg Road, the interchange with the I-71. Then find North Homestead, you can see one or two here and there. When it gets closer to the interchanges has got a minor impact. Parma and Parma Heights, the one only place is a concern. The rest is a yellow, or there's nothing, no changes on the Parma and Parma Heights. But the main issue is the city of Brook Park itself. And you can see we come back to this and we show the simulation for this area. And there are several places either bordering with other cities or they inside the Brook Park, city of Brook Park. And those you see the Ed mentioned about the buildable units. Those are to inside this, close to the stadium and development to reduce the congestion impact of this. So as I mentioned, the other route is to the airport was a concern. So what you see on this map, black line shows the route to the airport. Majority of, over 750 vehicles, obviously they come from neighborhoods, but those tiny addition is not. The green one is the one coming to the stadium. Based on that, we took some statistical measures and see how much impact it's got to the trips to the airport. And you can see on this weighted average for a base, then weighted average when I say weighted average, we took the average of the travel time and added to it the number of trips coming from each neighborhood. So then maximum delay, it goes up to some of the neighborhoods of about 3 minutes, and total delay for the whole region is the 96 hours of the delay. After 7, obviously not much traffic going on, and 2.3 hours. So basically, I'm leaving the same thing, you can see very close. So we concluded that is a marginal impact on the travel to airport. Southwest General, that's the hospital south of the Middleburg. So again, black line shows the trips going there. This is a technique we can use in our model, identify the cars using for their destinations, then tag them and show them. So the black line goes, and actually you can see some of them to go to South General Hospital is opposite direction of people coming to people coming to the stadium. Is similar impacts in terms of travel time. Actually is less than the airport because it's a one interchange south of the stadium and development area. So again, we are talking about 2.3 minutes maximum delay for some of the neighborhoods, and total is 88.1 hours. When the leaving is 10 hours and maximum is 55 hours. Now, as I mentioned, people parking, not only all the people, the assumption of the 23,000 cars, 12 can park in the site, but there are some people park outside the stadium and they have to walk. So this map shows the walking distance, which maximum is about 1 mile, and most of them are less than 1 mile, even some of them are 0.2, 0.1. So one of the buildable unit is the bridge for the people to safely walk to the stadium. But we recommend all the walking sidewalk to be 7 feet or wider of the width. We did based on the highway capacity manual for the walking chapter, and that's what you see in terms of the walking spaces and walking, level of service like cars. And you can see most of them are C, D, 1 or 3E at capacity. So that's based on the 7 feet for the sidewalk. Okay, now what we add here is which simulation, and we simulate the area on this.
And while they're putting together the IT requirements for the simulation, I would just like to help clarify what it is that we're voting on today, because that's a lot of information. What we are voting on today is the PPR project plan review, which means that there has been sufficient review of the proposed projects, which is review by staff, review by the appropriate councils, transportation subcommittees, et cetera, and intergovernmental review. I want to draw your attention to the maps that Dr. Ali showed relative to communities other than Brook Park are not included in this motion. This motion is only dealing with the 6 projects in the city of Brook Park. The city of Brook Park is the sponsor of the project, so that's what they have requested. However, we have identified, as you just saw, many other pinch points and potential areas of congestion that will require some mitigation. Those have not yet been studied enough, or there have not been recommendations on infrastructure solutions. So what staff is proposing is that we concur that the 6 buildable units that are being requested by Brook Park for this project will in fact help alleviate the congestion for the city of Brook Park around the stadium. For the other communities, we are saying that this action is contingent upon further review of those other communities, development of solutions for their transportation infrastructure, and that would be a phase 2. So this will be phase 1, only the city of Brook Park, but we are concerned about those outlying communities, and that will be phase 2 that would come back to the board.
Is there any questions for the speaker? Or,
So I think Ali's going to show a simulation. So he's pretending that it's a day in 2030 after the stadium has been built. And there's an event on a, did you say Thursday night or?
Wednesday afternoon.
Okay, Wednesday afternoon. And this is intended to be a worst case scenario. So go ahead, take us through the simulation.
There's a question.
Executive Director Clucci, if I could just
Yes.
ask a couple questions related to what you just mentioned, and we appreciate the suburbs around this development being included in some of the analysis. Couple of things. One is what consideration has been given for the future of the IX Center. I think that's important, and I'm not sure with the changes there recently how that can be considered. Also, I would include the metro parks. A lot of discussion around Valley Parkway. So I know you're talking to all the surrounding suburbs, but the metro parks, I think, will be heavily impacted, especially Valley Parkway. So just for your consideration in that phase 2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, what you see here on the screen is
If I could, Mr. Chair.
oh, yeah, go ahead.
Just a comment just on the earlier can we talk about the analysis that's been done up to this point? It just seems like early in the presentation, it seems when we talked about capacity on roads between, I want to get focused somewhat specifically on 237 between Brook Park Road and Snow Road in front of the airport, basically. But it showed the capacity of, this was very early in your presentation, but it showed just 200 vehicles being added during an event coming up that stretch of road. And if we're saying that there's going to be roughly 22,000 vehicles coming into here, we're saying less than 1% is coming up that road, which is basically the, the opposite of Ingle Road. And whatever signage we would like to put onto this, it still seems that is significantly, it doesn't make sense to me how it could only be 200 additional vehicles during an event. So just if somebody could take a peek at that and see, is that an accurate
Yeah, that
analysis
same
found?
question was asked at our workshop a couple of days ago that we held for the communities, the mayors of the communities that are being impacted, and anybody else on the board that wanted to attend. That same question was asked. I'm going to suggest, mostly because the IT is difficult to get in and out of, that we go through the simulation. Some of it can be answered in the simulation. And then if it is not answered sufficiently in the simulation, we'll go back to it. But there is an answer to that question. So Ali, why don't you go ahead with the simulation?
Just I add what you said, we are not putting the numbers on the roads based on the, this is the art of the modeling, and the software we have got looks at the people's behavior and then mimics what happens. So it's not artificially we are adding this road or this road, we decide on this. This is based on the 24 hours of running and mimicking the people's behavior. That's a very important, apart from the number crunching in terms of the capacity of roads, intersection delay and all this, but the mimicking the people's behavior, where they take the route to go to destination, you will see, as Chris mentioned, on this simulation. So on this screen, what you see is a zoomed in for the area, and then we have got is on the left-hand side, bottom on the left side is 4 o'clock, and it shows starting from 4 to 5, but I'm gonna run it fast because if I do the, one-to-one between the simulation time and the actual time, we are gonna be here for up to 11:30. So I'm gonna
Then you will have done you will undo all of the benefits of the consent agenda. So we're not going to do that.
So I'm gonna speed up the process as we go along, and we see what happens in terms of the. Hopefully nothing is gonna crash, and we will go through this. There's a lot of data comes here, and I'm basically online showing you this. Let me zoom in from the one corner of the area. So that's the Snow Road interchange, and the important, if you look at the right-hand side, the legend, cars have colored based on their speed. So when we go, let me zoom in more so I can explain. You can see the. So when we see the reason why going so fast, because as I said, I've done you can see down here, 12, 17, it shows the ratio between the actual time and the simulation time. So the different color of the cars on this is a green is over 60, 70 miles per hour, and the yellow goes down and goes when it's a red, is you see here, for example, they stop by the traffic lights, and the color changes, the vehicle's color changes to the red and orange and stops. So because the speed comes down less than 50. So if you see here, one of the concern, one of the suggestion for the buildable unit was widening the interchange from Snow Road, from I-71 exit to the Snow Road, as here, down here, which right now is not 3 lanes, it's 2 lanes, but the proposal was to add 1 lane, which is useful to have more turning to the left and going there. So I will move around. Hopefully nothing is gonna crash, because I was dreaming last night is gonna crash and everything is, all this 3 months of work is gonna go nothing, but that's, so. When I zoom out, you see more zoomed out, and these are the shows, the group of each circle is a group of the vehicles. And you can see, again, based on the color of this, and one concern and question was about 237, and I will go to near the airport. These are the entrance and exit from airport. As you see, there's mainly 237 has got green, light green, or when they slow down here, they want to go to the inside the parking lot, they become yellow and they reduce the speed. The interesting point is on this side, I-71, that was one of the workshop question. We are asked to do this at the highways. So as it goes south, people go to the parking lot and the traffic comes back. However, this is one of the I-71, one of my routes home, and I will basically, I can tell you there's mostly in the afternoon, but you can see I want to draw your attention, the color of the cars before they exit to a stadium and after the exit. You can see there's a little bit of delay there, orange and red, then it goes down, it becomes green, comes back the same, and the other side, same thing. Let's look at a little bit north, and I want to pay attention 1642, 43. If we go north, because of the people now close to the event and going, the more cars on the I-71. But if I go this side of the airport side, still most cars have got their own, intended speed, 60, 45, 55. So as you see, the traffic is not on the Brook Park, is fairly, and let's go more north, 480, and all this Spaghetti Junction here, all these are moving apart from this I-71, which they are going to a stadium. So the rest are, there's no much in terms of the, now look at time on the left corner, 1649, and I can zoom into one area here for the intersection of the Brook Park, and you can see people. I could show this in the 3D, but I am afraid it might be the memory and crashes, so that's why we just stay in the 2D, but I can make a video for the 3D, and so that's 1657. We are getting closer to the end of the simulation time. Traffic is impacted, but we expect when you have got the 65,000 people come to the game, and we expect to have it. So this is the end of the 5 o'clock, and the results now in the files, and it shows the delay, shows the speed, average speed for each of the roads, all the segment. Now, the next one, which I want to show you, is the evening when people leave. Still, we are okay with the. Can I close it? Close and open up? Okay. I was told not to click so many times because of the you have seen this. What I'm going to show you is sorry for the delay, but I'm showing you after the game, when the game finished and people are leaving the area. Obviously, is not a much concern because of there's no daily traffics are much lower. So this is starting from 9 o'clock, 21 on the left corner. And for an hour, I will. As you see, I draw your attention, when it comes, less flights are after 9, and you can see the number of cars coming to airport is less, but number of cars leaving the airport is much bigger, higher than the number of cars coming to the airport. Because this is 9 o'clock, and this after, not much, all the flights are afternoon from 3 to 5, according to the data we have got from airport. So I-71 this time, there's no red, everybody is moving. But the only thing is for everybody to leave the stadium on different gates, and this is very normal because we are assuming 12,000 cars suddenly use the 2-lane or even 1-lane exit. That's gonna be managed according to the city of Brook Park. There will be a camera and they will be managed by the police to make sure everybody, but as you see from this picture and this simulation, most people trying to reach the I-71 south and north and leave the area because the I-71 has enough capacity and there's no daily traffic much in the 9 o'clock there's no work trip, nothing. So that's vacant many lanes so they can use it. But the problem is going towards getting to access to the freeway. As if I go to north now, I have to zoom in and speed up a bit because the main issue, as you see, is the red people coming out of the stadium and they want to go to Snow Road and come to the 2 ramps of the I-71 to go to north and south of I-71. There's no issue on these ramps. The main, as you see, for example, the one we had on the coming to stadium, the one I am talking about. This is the wrong time. So the one I'm talking about is the ramp coming, exit ramp coming. There's no much because people are leaving. They are not coming. On the PM, it was coming now. There's nothing there and not many cars here and there some. But the rest is, you can see all this. But let's look at the north side of it. And now is it 9:20? Still exiting gates are congested. Maybe people should take some drink before leave home. They can, they can do something there before. Hopefully they have won the game on that day. So now is a 480 here, east-west. Again, there's not much. There's no daily traffic, so even Brook Park is much quieter. The only people, they want to go from the Brook Park and Ingle Road north. One of the units of the buildable unit was to widen the Ingle Road. So that helps to go to Brook Park and go out of the area. Now is a 9:30 on this simulation, and you see 480, and as I mentioned, the Spaghetti Junction are pretty quiet, and the traffic is in the green color. Most is going with a 60-70, and then there are some yellows. That's because they are coming to ramp. Speed limit is about 35, and they slow down, and the simulation perfectly shows the color of the cars when they slow down. As you can see, the Brook Park is red because there's a traffic light and they stopped and they go there. So then another visit is at 2035, another visit to see what happens to the airport. As you see, as I mentioned, not many traffic is coming to airport because not 9:30, not much flights. So, but leaving is, there are more traffic going, and you can see patches of the green color cars. Now those are stopped there to 237 is going as speed, 65, 60. So you can see that's if I go south, when they go down to go to Snow Road, because of the Snow Road has got some delay, there will be some delay when people leave. Not much, but you can see there's some usual delay on this. I've got all the, anybody, asking, wants to know the delay after the simulation for this out. I've got the numbers and save after simulation stops, the number goes to file, and I can give you the average speed, the amount of delay for each intersection. And obviously, one more thing I have to mention here, these are, the time of, we had a, months or two, something we decided to do this is signal timing is very important. I try my best, but there is if we have got more time, we can make it much smoother than this with the number of the signal time. So that's now the signal time. So that's the end of the simulation. That's what, without crash, so I can say, well done to myself.
Thank you very much. Now we need to go out of the simulation, back to the presentation.
Let's close it.
And I think,
Close it.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask. Is it time, at this time, is there any more questions from the presenters or us? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I have just two questions. My first question is, through the modeling, does it take into account whether there's active construction or lane closures related to that or to crashes either on 480 or 71 or any of the local roads? Just wondering if that's taken into account. And my second question is related to when safety analysis would be done, particularly for pedestrians. I want to provide a little context to that because we still have stadiums in Cleveland and people walk upwards of a mile to go to the Guardians game, for example, across from the parking lot that's located at the West Side Market. They walk, that's about a mile. It's a similar distance from the Brook Park Station that's shown in the project area to where the new stadium is being proposed. And particularly employees or guests who would prefer to take the train or park at Brook Park itself and walk. I'm curious if and when there will be a safety analysis for that related to the crossings for that type of behavior.
Regarding your first question, that's called, in our field, that's called instant modeling. We are not doing the instant modeling for if the road closure, accident, or if you come here, there is a crash and you delay. We are talking about typical day on the roads, and those typical day is taking care of this kind of percentage of this kind of accident or crashes or happens or delay for road closure. We add the traffic volume attracted to the stadium on the daily typical day. Our model is for the typical day for investment, not our model. All the MPOs in this country, they always model the typical day, and there are some percentage of this. We put the data in the parameter values to take care of. But if you say, for example, there's an accident on I-71 and there's a delay, that's the instant we can do that, but that's not here. That's not the concern of this project.
So is it safe to say that we don't know yet how resilient the network is to those types of impacts?
We don't know. I couldn't hear, sorry.
Is it safe to say we don't know how resilient the network is as proposed to those types of impacts?
The resiliency of the network highway is showed by the capacity. When we go to the 70, 85%, 80% of the capacity use means we have got still 10, 20% room to get to the capacity. That's it. So if something was something like over the VOC volume over capacity was over 150, then it would have been yes concern. But based on what we said in the typical day, there's no much, and actually, as I said, level of service D is the best because if it's a A, B, C, we are wasting our tax money to build that kind of highways, but this comes actually using the D, and that's the import. And regarding your safety for the next question in terms of walking, we recommend, and we have talked to the city of Brook Park, to have the transit station for some of this we didn't put, but there should be some maybe 5% for transit. Some people might use the transit to come to a station, and then the safety, we have talked to them in terms of the bridges and to have as I mentioned, when they park on one side of the highway, they want to go, they need a bridge, they need a safe route. And actually we had with the City of Brook staff and the consultant had a walk through this, and we talked about the safety, but that is a part of this project as well.
Okay, so but there's been no existing crash analysis done currently.
Part of the next stage, as Chris mentioned,
That'll
we
be
will
the
do,
second phase.
we will do the safety analysis. Like this is not an exception. This is the procedure, as I mentioned in the beginning, we do for all the major projects. We have done it for downtown Cleveland, SR2. We have done for any other projects. After that, we are now doing the environment impacts for this project as a part of the environment. We are going to do the safety as well and see where the problems are. We have done initially, but as a phase 2, we will do that.
And I want to emphasize that NOACA staff has acknowledged that there has not been sufficient study around pedestrian traffic. And that we have included that. I think there are 2 recommendations in there now, and if you want to speak to those, that deal specifically with what we're asking to be done in that regard.
That is true. We do have 2 recommendations in our materials. And you'll find that on page, please. I believe 81 in your materials.
Ed, do you have it or do you want me to read it? Do you have it?
Yeah, actually, I'm having a little difficulty navigating this.
Is it the one that says there is no information regarding accessibility features? Is that the one we're talking about?
That's one of them. And that
Yes,
should-
that's one
that
of them.
should
So
be-
there is no information regarding accessibility features of the pedestrian facilities, particularly the bridge. To evaluate the full impact on pedestrian site access, it is important to understand how accessibility will be addressed. It is recommended to provide more detail in this area. And the sponsor did provide a response that says the stage 1 plan shows the pedestrian facilities, including the bridge designed to meet ADA requirements. But then Ed, there was another one that we put in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, if you look at the bottom of page 81 in your materials, there's a comment here that says proposed walking paths between the development site and identified parking locations include crossing under I-71. The abutments on the I-71 overpasses preclude building sidewalks wide enough to handle the large pedestrian volumes. None of the buildable units account for the substantial costs that would be incurred by truncating the abutments to provide for wider sidewalks. It is recommended to account for these costs in appropriate buildable units. And then at the top of page 82, there's another one that says, I think Director Galucci just read that one. Specific treatments have not been identified for making pedestrian crossings safe at critical intersections encountered on the proposed paths between the development site and identified parking locations. These include I-71 ramps and Brook Park Road at Angle Road. Treatments have also not been identified for crossings at the main entrance to the site that will be active on non-event days. A full walk audit is recommended to determine the types of improvements that will be included to address pedestrian safety needs.
So initially, when we reviewed this, we identified we acknowledged the lack of information on pedestrian facilities. They did respond to us. However, we still have some recommendations, and those are the two that Ed just read. So the first one I read was early on. They responded. We're still not totally, pleased with the response. So now we're asking for more.
So the walking segment is being worked on as we speak.
Correct.
So,
There's been, yes, there's attention given to it. The sponsor knows that. We are working with them and the specific recommendations have been made.
any more questions on resolution 2026?
So related to the pedestrians, are pedestrian volumes crossing the streets, particularly with so many people parking east of 71? Are they included in the modeling? Because we all know at a major event with that many people walking from these different distances, they're going to cause additional delays to traffic on the local streets, even if there are police there directing traffic, because you've obviously got to get people in and out of the building. Is that all included, and is that delay showing up for the traffic?
We look at independently on the map of the site. We measure the sidewalks, existing sidewalks coming, and then based on what one of my slide I showed to you, the saying we need at least 7 feet widening this, and based on that, that level of service for walking is based on the highway capacity manual for chapter for non-motorized. So based on that, we didn't see level of services, but as Chris mentioned, providing we have this sidewalk, these bridges for the safety of the pedestrian, because when people leave or come to game, they come together. It's not a one individual. There's going to be group of people. So the sidewalk should be wide enough. We measured all this. We based on this manual, we measured and see how many people parking, then how many people walking together, coming to the stadium. And then, for example, crossing intersections. As you have seen the games here in 9th Street, when there's a game, there's a police present and actually stops the traffic for the people crossing. But when I've seen myself, when people cross, is not maybe 10 or 20, is in the hundreds of the people crossing at the same time. That should be wide enough to handle this. If that happens, in terms of safety, when we do the analysis, we will be happy to, to say, yeah, that's something which is provide safe route from the parking lot, because not all of them is parked in the site.
So that's exactly the question I'm asking. Is the time that it takes for those hundreds of people to cross the street while traffic is coming in, is that reflected in the model that we saw? Because that's going to be a bigger delay than if, regular traffic is moving and there's no one crossing a street.
No, for the intersection, most of them it was a freeway. For the 1 or 2 intersections, the huge number of the delay according to this, no, it wasn't assumed that, it was just.
So that will cause larger delays to the vehicular traffic, which
it will be
backups onto the freeway, correct? Because of course we have to wait for the pedestrians to cross.
It will be 2 roads. One was mainly Brook Park Road, and the one on the south is Snow. The Ingle Road is the southwest. There's no much delay there, and there was not much intersection. The only thing is a Brook Park delay with the Ingle Road, and the other side, the one with coming from 2337, and those are the minor delay. Maybe there's people, but I doubt it is going to be, because the parking outside the site is spread around. It's not just one location, 12,000 again. It's 100 here, 500 there. Shopping malls has got 200. These are the distributed during the year, during the area. So that's going to be I agree with you, it's going to be some delay, additional delay for the cars, but it's going to be inside the stadium, the area, so people would accept that kind of, as you saw when they were leaving, there was a long queue of cars leaving the gates, and those are going to be, I think is acceptable for the people leaving for the planning purpose. So there will be some delay there.
I'm just still concerned we're not capturing that additional delay in the way that we should, with the amount of cars that are going to be required to park off-site versus the amount of parking that's shown on-site. And we keep talking about people walking a mile from the Brook Park station. So what is the transit mode split that you're assuming? How many people are coming via the train versus driving their cars?
We did based, not transit here, but usually the maximum, it goes up to 5%. Based on the conversation we had with a consulting team from the Brook Park is, I mean, you have to consider this. Right now, the total transit share is less than 2% right now, not game, just generally on the region. So that could go to 5%, but the 5%, we need to have a station there to have it, actually is good for a multimodal access to the game rather than just depending on the cars. That's something we recommend, to have a transit station in the site.
So what is assumed now in the modeling that you shared with us today?
The transit share
Yeah.
is, when we go to the peak, AM is about 4 to 5%.
Okay, I feel like.
On the AM peak, when people come to work. And when they leave is less, but during the day, if you take the average for a whole day and compare with the whole day traffic, is less than 1.5 or 2% maximum.
Got it. And then one last question. I felt like when we were watching the modeling, I know that after the game is not going to be as much of an issue if it's an evening game. We saw the traffic backing up and the red lines coming out of the parking lot on the site itself. But again, there are still a significant amount of cars that are going to be required to park in other locations east of 71. I don't feel like the model really reflected all of that traffic coming out, and it's going to interact with and cross some of the same roads that the traffic coming out of the stadium is. I'm just concerned that the origin of the exiting
Yes.
traffic was not all captured.
As I mentioned, we discussed this with the City of Brook Park staff and consulting, working for them, and we asked this question. So when people leave, because of the parking lots are being distributed in the area, so here and there, but there will be a police present on the most intersection with a camera, according to the mayor last time, Mayor of Brook Park mentioned here, there will be a camera, and that's gonna be controlled, central control on this. So I think when there's a parking lot, for example, 500, leaving that's not gonna be with the one presence of one police officer, that's easily. The issue you saw in the simulation is from out of the site. When 12,000 car comes, that's important. The outside, here and there, 500, 200, those are not concerned. However, as I said, especially when they leave the evening, there's no much traffic. So still with the presence of the police, and as we see every time in our 9th Street event every evening, that can be managed easily and they won't be delayed. However, getting to the freeway system, it will be delayed there. And as a part of the, Grace mentioned the phase 2, we are going to look at this kind of concern. And I think one thing is you mentioned in terms of looking at the simulation at the same time pedestrian, that software is capable of doing that. But off the record, I have to learn to add the pedestrian to that as well.
I guess I'll just make one final statement. We're just concerned that there's a lot being pushed to phase 2, and without fully understanding all of the impacts and all of the improvements and ultimately all of the dollars that are going to be necessary to address the congestion, we're just concerned that at this point, we don't have all the information that we really should be having to be considering this.
Okay. Commissioner Pleshnik.
Mr. President, first, I want to quickly acknowledge our new alternates for Lake County. We're grateful to Willoughby Hills Councilwoman Julie Belich and former Willoughby Hills Councilman and Lake County Commissioner Kevin Malachek for joining us. They've served with distinction, and we're grateful for them to be here. Second, I want to make sure that we all have a clear understanding of what we are potentially voting for today and what we are not voting for. My understanding is that in no way are we voting on whether or not the Browns should leave Cleveland, which I strongly oppose. And in no way are we voting on whether we should be using $600 million of unclaimed funds from the taxpayer to fund the stadium for a billionaire, which I strongly oppose. Instead, we are being asked whether or not to vote on the planning process for the city of Brook Park, which is going to have massive changes in traffic patterns based on a new stadium in their community, as well as their surrounding communities, and that it would be irresponsible for them not to consider those changes in traffic patterns and the greater demands on their infrastructure from it. I'm not happy with what's been decided at other bodies and at other levels, but I respect the home rule and the local control of a member of the Northeast Ohio community. And if Lake County were moving a stadium or a major facility, we would be coming through the same planning process. So if my understanding is correct, that we are simply voting on the planning process for the city of Brook Park, then I would be supportive of their efforts to adjust. And I would further add that the questions I've heard today, which I completely share the concerns of, indicate the importance of this process. My understanding is we're going through the exact same step-by-step analysis of traffic patterns, safety issues, pedestrian crossings that we would in any other case, and that this is the standard procedure that any of our counties, cities, or municipalities would be using. But if there are any differences, if we're doing anything in a way that is significantly different, I'd like to hear it. But if the executive director or if you, Mr. President, could confirm my understanding, I believe we're simply going through the planning process to adjust for a pretty substantial new business in Brook Park so that they are capable of handling those new traffic patterns.
I believe you're correct.
Yes, again, to make it clear, we are voting today on the 6 buildable units which make up the City of Brook Park's request to NOACA, and staff have validated that those 6 buildable units that make up the project will have positive impact in mitigating the congestion in Brook Park.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And that was actually the question that I had. I wanted to confirm the illustration that we watched was the current state of the system, right? Or is that the system even after, I mean, there's going to be a fair bit of congestion even when you have, when you have 30,000 people or 30,000 vehicles descending on one spot, but that's the current state of the system?
So the simulation was 2030, so it assumes the operational date of the stadium.
On the event day.
So
On the
it was
event
trying
day-
to come up with the worst case scenario for congestion when the stadium opens.
But it was simulating it based on the transportation system as it exists today or as it's proposed with these 6 buildable units in place?
I
No,
believe it's,
it is,
go ahead.
as I mentioned, we look at the 2013 our travel demand model, then take the data and convert it to 1 hour is a complete complicated process, but making it on the simulation for that day. But the macro model, which looks at the whole region for 2030 with the stadium in part of this and compare it to 2030 without a stadium. So that data source data is the one comes to simulation. So then simulation, when we see the cars are moving, that's based on data coming from, cut it out from the regional, the huge model, we cut it out this and simulate, because if you do whole region, that's gonna be something we need.
That's not what he's
computer like
asking.
this room.
Ali, so we have looked at all of the analysis based on a base case scenario, which is everything how it is today, and a build scenario. Build for both the stadium and then separately build for the improvements in infrastructure in the city of Brook Park. When you did the simulation, because that's a new thing, when you did the simulation, did you include base or build or build?
No, it is as a build scenario. And as I said, it was a 2030, 2 scenarios. One is a base, one is a build. The build scenario has got all this information. We got it from the consultant and the Brook Park, what they're gonna add. For example, the exit ramp from the snow road from I-71 is gonna be 3 lanes. We add all this and we added the demand because there were some development, some residential and the office work is gonna be built by a stadium. Those were added to the modeled before running it.
So when you see in the simulation, all of the red, has the 6 buildable units already been considered in that presentation?
Yes, the one you saw to the stadium, that's the new ramp and if you notice the background of it, the background was the existing, but the consultants they proposed to have an additional lane cross over the rail and go to the stadium. We did it based on the proposed 6 units.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Doctor, I was just curious when you ran the model, it never showed the interstates backing up during peak hours, which we know that happens routinely now if you drive those. But why does it not take that into account? It just assumes that all that traffic's getting pushed through there?
You are talking about macro or micro? Which one the one you saw that here?
Well, neither one showed the interstates it all showed free-throw traffic the whole time.
No, the macro model shows some interstate and some delays we oversee, and we have got these numbers, but those are in the numbers, not in terms of the visualizing. This is a visualizing all delay, what happens actually on the hour. But no, I mean, there are some delays in the afternoon on the interstate. There are some delays on the, people, as you saw the I-71, and I experienced myself southbound in the afternoon. There's a delay. Those are but shown on in different tools, different ways. So the macro model shows in terms of the V over C, volume over capacity and delays, and speeds goes down. We have got all this information.
And I think another way to say that is there are currently delays. There will be delays, but they're still within the acceptable range for the level of service capacity.
Bonnie?
So in regard to all the recommendations that were listed, does that become part of what we're approving today?
The recommendations are what you are approving. Yes, that is inclusive
Yes.
as well as the conditions.
Okay. And then obviously some of those are going to incur additional cost. How is that being addressed?
That's a great question. In our discussions with the city of Brook Park, we had suggested initially that we preferred a multi-jurisdictional approach, which would have produced a multi-jurisdictional financial request, which they submitted not to NOACA, but to track and to build. But based on the schedule that they currently have, that doesn't align. So there will have to be a multi-jurisdictional request back to NOACA and to the funding sources of track and or elsewhere. But this particular proposal does not request NOACA funding, but there should be a concern about the additional costs related to those jurisdictions, yes.
Okay,
Mr. President,
yes.
I move to approve.
Is there a second? Now we go into discussion. Any discussion?
Just one clarifying question. I know in the information that was before the resolution, so the memo, there was a statement in there that just stated about the applicant may request that this be added to the long-range plan or the TIP. I just want to clarify whether or not that has been requested and if this is just a PPR approval versus adding it to any other list or funding.
Sure. So this is just the PPR. That question was raised in the Planning and Programming Committee. The Planning and Programming Committee moved forward only the PPR. And the reason that is mostly the process that is required to go into the plan, the long-range plan, is scheduled for the next meeting. It's scheduled for June because we have to do air quality conformity analysis, which is a federal requirement. And it is something that not only the NOACA board approves, but there are 2 other MPOs in the Northeast Ohio region that must also approve it. So we anticipate that will be completed by June and bringing that back. So if you look at the next steps, we will have air quality conformity analysis is in progress, completion, and by the board meeting. So that is when we have it scheduled. There will also be another action that the board will have to approve, which is the tip. So we will need to amend the tip as well, but the tip is only amended when we have the funding in place. So first, we're evaluating the project itself. Then we look at the bigger picture of air quality and long-range plan. And then when it gets funded, we add it to the short-term program. So there are two more actions after this that the board will see. And again, the one is scheduled for June. I don't know when the tip one will take place because we don't know when they will secure the funding.
Go ahead.
And a clarification on that, by not being on the long-range plan, does that compromise the opportunities for any track funding?
We have spoken to track, and as I said in the Planning and Programming Committee, they would like an ideal application to be submitted with an environmental review. But that is not done by NOACA. That is done by ODOT. They do not require inclusion in the long-range plan for track. So they didn't require it for the application. They in the past have approved projects without being in the long-range plan. But they would like an environmental complete. ODOT has not yet signed off on the environmental because their process requires the long-range plan to be complete before they sign off on the environmental. So that's the complexity. There are two ways to deal with that. If track would like, if track would like some evidence of support, clearly this action shows that. If there's a need, there always could be a special board meeting held once we complete the conformity analysis, if it is necessary for track before the June board meeting. Or another alternative is perhaps ODOT could approve the environmental, because my understanding is everything is already complete and approval. They could approve it conditional on our inclusion in the long-range plan and submit that to track. So there's a couple of different ways to approve it, but it does not need to be in the long-range plan for track funding.
Go ahead.
Early on, you had mentioned there would be like a phase B that would look at the intersections in neighborhood and communities. Who's actually going to do that then, Grace?
That's a great question. We have asked the city of Brook Park to work with their partners and consultants to do that. I know they have already begun doing that for Bagley Road, which is outside of the city of Brook Park. We anticipate that the partners that are responsible for the development would undertake that initiative. Certainly, NOACA will be there to assist with data points and with modeling, and it would take additional collaboration with those jurisdictions. So it is something that needs to be better defined as we move forward.
Go ahead.
So Director, at what checkpoint would we be able to know if that consultant team is undertaking the work that this is conditional upon?
It's a great question. As I said, what I'm aware of is they've begun undertaking the work for Bagley Road, which is in Middleburg Heights, and the mayor of Middleburg Heights is included in that process and is working very collaboratively. We would like to see that in the other communities. We could, as conditional, you will have the opportunity to ask that question again before it gets into the plan in June and before it gets into the tip at some other point. So we could request the city of Brook Park to provide us updates on that question prior to moving forward.
Director, I'd like to request that now so that they have time to prepare.
And following up on that, could we have staff better define what that is? I mean, we know the question came up about Bagley because of the hospital. It seems a little nebulous as to what else we're asking for, but if staff could maybe
Yeah.
look into that and
I
help to
think
really
a
define
good
that.
way for us, whoops, yeah, oh, wrong way. The best way for us, I think, to define that is to look at these new maps that we've created, where this is the city of Brook Park. These are the issues we have there that have been addressed. Here we see something in Parma and Parma Heights that has not been addressed. We need to look at that. Middleburg Heights, North Olmsted, Fairview Park. So we have identified Cleveland. We have identified all of those adjoining communities where we believe there are congestion issues that have not yet been addressed that need to be addressed, both studying it and then proposing infrastructure solutions. And I guess they don't all have to have infrastructure solutions. Some might have operation solutions. So, and Berea. So those are the maps and why we've included them in the discussion today.
Okay, I appreciate all the hard work your staff has done. This is a big project and we should have meetings like this. And this is just one of the steps towards this project. And to me personally, this project is a job creating project, not only just for the construction people, but for years to come afterwards. And again, thank you for the staff for the detailed report.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to recognize particularly Dr. Ali Makarachi, who has the modeling background that is very rare to get at an MPO. And then also Derek Taylor, who works with Ali on these kinds of analyses. We do have an incredible in-house capacity that most MPOs do not.
Okay, so we have a motion, second, discussion is complete. So,
Right? Do we have to put in Mr. DeRosa's comments as an amendment? Question.
I think that was the question. On the motion, on the resolution itself, it's got language in there. Now I've lost it. Section 2 talks about the project sponsor must endeavor to comply with any conditions or recommendations that have occurred as a result of the project planning review and will provide evidence of such. So I don't know if
Sounds like well,
that's in there, but that's different than what.
Right, so that's the condition that we put in that addresses getting that work done as a phase 2. It does not address the timeline that Mr. DeRosa raised. So the question is, do we need an amendment to address the timeline? Or is it sufficient in the document and that they would need to be prepared? Because irregardless of whether they're prepared or not, the board would have the ability at that time to make that decision one way or another.
It sounds to me like an amendment is not necessary based on the language we had. I heard that more as a request for an administrative instruction than an amendment to the resolution. If I misunderstood that, let me know.
Mr. Chair, just to add to that, because I agree with the thoughts on that as well. And I think by virtue of this conversation, it's pretty clear what one of our fellow board members is expecting. And I think between now and June, if I were the project sponsor, I'd make good note of that, so.
Okay. Duly noted. So, first, second discussion is over. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? One. State their name, please.
Jim Petrus.
Thank you. Okay,
And abstaining, please.
abstained. Any more abstaining? Okay. Motion passes. And just one of many steps for this big project. Item number 7, ODOT Interbelt Modernization Plan Update. Presenters Malice, and ODOT Major Projects Engineer.
I would ask that Director Pakuri also be given the opportunity to give an introduction. This is a very important project in our long-range plan, and as it advances, they have made the request to present this to the board for status and other aspects of the project to be understood.
Thank you, Grace. We haven't done a update on the Cleveland Interbelt Modernization Plan for a few years. For those of you that aren't aware of it, this is almost a $3 billion investment in the greater Cleveland area on the Interbelt. And we just sold a $328 million project to Kenmore Construction on the Central Interchange. So you're going to see that work commencing here very soon over the next 5 years. And Dana is our major projects and Interbelt project manager, and she's here to present and just give an update in general on where it stands. Of course, the next project, I won't take all her thunder, but the next project after the Central Interchange will be portions of Dead Man's Curve.
Thanks, John. You hear me? Okay. Yeah, just thank you for this opportunity to present the Cleveland Interbelt Modernization Plan. Through this presentation, I'll give a brief history of the plan, along with some updates on what phases of the plan has been completed, what currently is in construction, and what phases are planned for the future. So the Interbelt freeway system was originally constructed in the late 1950s and early 1960s. The Interbelt corridor study originated with interest to redeck the Interstate 90 truss bridges over the Cuyahoga River. As the study started in the early 2000s, other issues became more evident, such as operational and safety concerns. The Interbelt Modernization Plan evolved by 2004, and it includes rebuilding portions of Interstate 71, 77, and 90 through downtown Cleveland. The plan proposes the major rehabilitation and reconstruction of the Cleveland Interbelt infrastructure to address operational, design, safety, and access shortcomings that severely impact the freeway's ability to function acceptably. The Interbelt Modernization Plan also supports community goals and enhances the aesthetics of the built environment, and it reflects high standards of the environmental responsibility. The project timeline leading up to the approved NEPA document started with the Interbelt Major Investment Study in August of 2000 and led to the Interbelt environmental documentation and preliminary development in 2004 under PID 77510. Conceptual alternatives were approved in 2006, and the feasibility study was approved in 2007. In June of 2009, the interchange justification study was approved for design year 2035. The preferred alternative was approved in 2009 prior to the NEPA environmental document approval on September 18th, 2009. The Interbelt Modernization Plan was evaluated as one complete project, both in the NEPA document and in the interchange justification study. However, due to the size and complexity of the project, its extensive cost, and the need to maintain traffic, we required the improvements to be systematically phased. So the project team developed a phasing plan, taking into consideration current conditions, maintenance of traffic, constructability, and the utility of the finished segment. The phasing plan includes 7 construction contract groups, and they're referred to as CCG 1 through CCG 7. You will see in the upcoming slides that these 7 contract groups have been separated even further, and that's to assist with funding and construction phasing. Today, we are on track to have the plan completed by 2040, but this is greatly dependent on maintaining strong local and regional support and capturing project funding. The biggest challenge is capturing the project funding due to the extensive cost of the Interbelt contract groups. The challenge is amplified as the costs continue to grow due to inflation rates. Budget and schedule are updated annually as part of our Interbelt financial plan submitted to FHWA. So as John mentioned, the estimated total project cost for the Interbelt modernization plan is over $2.78 billion, with $187.7 million for engineering, $141.4 million for right-of-way, and $2.45 billion for construction. 44% of the plan is funded, leaving 56% unfunded. Factors that continue to be a risk to the project budget include construction inflation, industry capacity limits, potential material shortages, accuracy of preliminary estimate, right-of-way costs, and the project development timeframe. So far, $1.23 billion has been invested into the Cleveland Interbelt project. Costs shown here for the funded phases are actual costs incurred for completed work, with the exception of CCG 3A and CCG 4, the PE design. These are future costs currently under contract that are controlled by contract documents. The project total costs discussed and shown in the presentation include project design, construction, and construction engineering costs. The Interbelt right-of-way costs are lumped together under corridor right-of-way in PID 77-332. $1.55 billion is needed to complete the remaining Interbelt projects. For these unfunded costs, design estimates are based on a percentage of the anticipated project cost. Right-of-way appraisals rely on the current valuations for properties to be acquired and are inflated to the anticipated dates of purchase. And the construction estimates are based on planning level estimates that are inflated to the midpoint of construction using ODOT's current long-range inflation forecast. So far, groups 1, 2, 6, and part of 7 have been completed. The Interbelt bridges carry Interstate 90 over the Cuyahoga Valley, and they were originally constructed in 1959. In 1997, ODOT inspection found some major deficiencies in the bridge, deck, and stringers and recommended replacement of these elements by 2008. In the fall of 2007, after the Interstate 35 bridge collapsed in Minnesota, ODOT looked closely at the Interstate 90 truss and found similar gusset plate issues. It was determined that the bridges were in substantially worse condition than we previously understood. Due to the deteriorated conditions, as well as the important connection over the Cuyahoga Valley, construction of the new Interbelt bridges was prioritized as the first phases of the Interbelt to be constructed. CCG 1 is the new westbound Interbelt bridge and was constructed between 2010 and 2014. The total project cost for Group 1 was $313.4 million. CCG 2 is the new eastbound Interbelt bridge and was constructed between 2014 and 2017. This phase also included the demolition of the existing Interbelt bridges, and the total project cost for Group 2 was $300.5 million. Group 6A replaced the mainline Interstate 77 bridge over Interstate 490 and widened the structure to 6 lanes to address congestion, condition, and safety issues. The phase was constructed between 2017 and 2021, and the total project cost for 6A was $32.5 million. CCG 6B reconstructed a longer bridge for Broadway Avenue over Interstate 77 and reconstructed ramps to provide standard lane widths and merge distances. The project redirected the Broadway Avenue entrance ramp to Interstate 77 southbound along a frontage road that was constructed from Broadway Avenue to Pershing Avenue to maintain access to 77 southbound. The project was constructed between 2017 and 2020, and the total project cost for Group 6B was $32.6 million. CCG 7A improved Interstate 71 southbound between Interstate 490, and the State Route 176 South exit. The project included a deceleration lane for southbound traffic exiting to State Route 176 South and improved the Interstate 90 East and Interstate 490 West entrance ramp to State Route 176 South. The project was constructed between 2020 and 2022. The total project cost for Group 7A was $4.6 million. Currently, we are getting ready for construction for CCG 3A, the Cleveland Interbelt Central Interchange. CCG 3A is the reconstruction of the Central Interchange and Interstate 90 from East 9th Street to Carnegie Avenue. The project includes 6 connecting ramps, including restoring the 90 eastbound to East 22nd Street connection, 4 surface streets, multiple retaining walls, and 6 bridge structures, including Carnegie Avenue and East 22nd Street. The project was just awarded to Kenmore Construction, as John mentioned, for $328 million. The total project cost, including design, construction, and construction engineering, is $379.3 million. Construction for Group 3A will be a 6-year project beginning this spring and finishing by 2032. Future projects include Group 4, the Interbelt Curve reconstruction, Group 5, the Interbelt Trench reconstruction, Group 7B, the Southern Interbelt, which includes Interstate 71 improvements, and Group 3B, the Interstate 77 improvements leading into the Interbelt Central Interchange. The timeline and sequencing shown here is subject to change. The department will evaluate future phases to ensure they are buildable and fundable. We are committed to advancing future phases as efficiently as possible to maximize the benefits of these improvements and mitigate potential cost increase associated with inflation. CCG 4 is the reconstruction of the Interbelt Curve and is the northernmost section of the Interbelt Modernization Plan. The Interbelt Curve section consists of a full systems interchange between Interstate 90 and State Route 2. Construction will include flattening the curve radius of the Interbelt Curve, eliminating the reduction in westbound lanes to State Route 2, reconstructing the interchange between Interstate 90 and State Route 2, consolidating ramp access, and realigning city roads. CCG 4 is separated into smaller phases to help make it easier to fund and to help isolate risk from third-party coordination. CCG 4A is the Easterly Interceptor Project. The Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District utility is anticipated to be impacted due to the lowering of the Interstate of the 90 pavement. Future coordination with NERSD will include discussing options of either slip lining or replacing this section of the interceptor. The total project cost for Group 4A is expected to be $13.7 million. CCG 4B will replace the CSX Railroad Bridge over Interstate 90 at a new location to accommodate the realignment of the Interbelt Curve, and CCG 4C will replace the Norfolk Southern Railroad Bridge over Interstate 90. Early coordination with the railroads has already begun, and the total project costs for each of these groups is estimated to be $72.1 million. CCG 4D will replace Superior Street, St. Clair, Hamilton, and Lakeside bridges over Interstate 90. Work includes replacing the existing structures with longer spans to accommodate the future widening of Interstate 90. The total project cost for Group 4D is estimated to be $66.4 million. The alternative evaluation report for the Interbelt Curve project, we're expecting this to be submitted this fall. We are evaluating the refinement of Interstate 90, the alignment, so that these overhead structures can be constructed without impacting existing pavement. Ideally, we would like to prioritize the Group 4D ahead of mainline Group 4E. And mainline CCG 4E is the mainline Interbelt Curve project. Work includes reconstructing the Interstate 90 pavement and realigning the Interbelt curve north of Superior Avenue. The total project cost for Group 4E is estimated to be $316.1 million. CCG 4T will construct the addition of a smart lane to Interstate 90 westbound from State Route 2 to Interstate 77 southbound. The smart lane will be a left lane, part-time, hard shoulder running used during peak congestion. Interstate 90 westbound from State Route 2 through Interstate 77 southbound currently operates at a level of service F during PM peaks. NOACA identifies Interstate 40 westbound as one of the worst bottlenecks in the region, and the stretch is the highest ranking in the district TOST list. This project will help mitigate rush hour congestion temporarily until the Interbelt Modernization Plan is completely implemented. District 12 is prioritizing CCG 4T, the Smart Lane project, as the next Interbelt construction project to be awarded. And we hope to have this constructed prior to the completion of the City of Cleveland's North Coast Connector project. The total project cost for Group 4T is estimated to be $19 million. CCG 5 is the Interbelt Trench, the section of the Interstate 90 between East 22nd Street and Superior Avenue. Work for this phase is anticipated to be split into 3 groups. CCG 5A will reconstruct 4 overhead bridges at Prospect, Euclid, Chester, and Payne. Work will include replacing the existing structures with longer spans to accommodate the roadway work in the other CCG 5 trench phases. Due to the condition of these structures, the alternative evaluation report for CCG 4 will evaluate the alignment refinement through the curve and through the trench to hopefully open up the option of advancing this 5A project earlier than expected. CCG 5B will reconstruct eastbound I-90 through the trench, and CCG 5C will reconstruct westbound I-90 through the trench. Total project cost for the Interbelt Trench is estimated to be $587.7 million. CCG 3B will reconstruct the Interstate 77 approach to the central interchange, including mainline bridge and pavement replacements. During the CCG 3 discussions to split this phase into Group 3A and 3B, it was determined that the bridge decks in this Group 3B needed to be replaced based on the performance of other interstate bridges of similar age. So we have just awarded project PID 119380 to replace the Interstate 77 bridge decks over East 22nd Street, Woodland Avenue, and East 30th Street for construction costs of $25.2 million. The deck replacement project construction is to begin at the same time as CCG 3A this spring, and it will be a 2-year project. This work ensures that the bridge condition will withstand another 15 or more years until the 3B project can be constructed. The total project cost for Group 3B is estimated to be $201.6 million. CCG 7B, known as the Southern Interbelt, will improve Interstate 71 between West 25th Street and Interstate 490. Work is to include replacement of the roadway pavement and the Interstate 71 bridge decks. The total project cost for 7B is estimated to be $187 million. Just to conclude, if you're looking for more information on the Interbelt or future updates, we do have an Interbelt ODOT webpage. It's interbelt.org. So please, if you have time, visit our website. And thanks again just for giving me this opportunity today.
Is there any questions?
You had mentioned in one of the slides about the connector in downtown Cleveland. Just wondering if you have at this point considered, or perhaps are going to be studying, the need to even connect from 90 west to Route 2, because the west segment is going to be decommissioned from, whatever is West
East.
Third or Sixth to further. And then that other portion going west has already gone from a 50-mile-an-hour highway lookalike road to 35-mile-an-hour boulevard. So if you did that, there's probably an easier and perhaps less expensive way to flatten that curve. I don't know if you've looked at that yet.
Yeah, but currently both projects are being coordinated together. We are included in both the traffic studies for both projects. And, there's also a connection at the curve in the East 18th from the North Coast Connector. So both projects are coordinating regularly on how they're going to be implemented and how it's going to work.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank Dana for all her hard work. You could see she is very busy, and I just wanted to publicly go on the record that she's not allowed to retire until 2040.
Thanks, John. Thank you.
All right. Okay, we'll move to item number 8, executive session.
Just had a question. I'm not sure if it's who's it to, maybe at this end, but 2 of the items in 10 are old business, but they both require board action. So I don't know if we should move those up before executive session or why they weren't in 6, maybe.
Well, I guess we could take 9 and 10.
Executive, and just to be clear, executive session is for the whole board and will remain in this room.
Is the the question about taking it out of order because we might lose members? We can,
I think that was my first concern. And then just also maybe a question of like, do we typically do action items as old business? Maybe we do. I just didn't remember.
Okay. Okay, to keep,
yeah, I think it's listed as old business only because it was an item that had come up previously. I'm not sure that there's necessarily a standing prohibition to taking a vote on old business items, but I think given the hour, it might make sense to move those things up because it might be a little bit ministerial, and then we can move into executive session. It sounds like maybe there's a motion to modify the order of the agenda that way.
yeah,
Second.
okay. There's been a motion on the floor and seconded to take 9 and 10 immediately because we're losing some people here. So, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes, and we'll move right to item number 9, reports and updates. Are there any reports or updates for today's meeting? None. Item 10, old business, resolution 2026-017, revised calendar, meeting schedule, presenter Liz Bartlick.
And if I may, I can speak to Ms. Serby's question that we didn't have all of the information and the finality of this item when we set the consent agenda, or it could have been something that would have gone to that.
Yes, thank you. Good morning still, maybe? I'm Liz Barlick, Associate Director of Executive Affairs. As was just explained by Ryan and Executive Director Galucci, these items came up at the Governance Committee meeting right before the executive, so we weren't able to get them into the consent agenda, but they have both been before you at the January meeting, so we did put them under old business. So the first one is to request that the Board of Directors adopt the following resolution, Resolution 2026-017, which adopts a revised calendar year 2026 regular meeting schedule for NOACA's Board of Directors, committees, subcommittees, and councils. This is specifically related to a board meeting that was scheduled September 11th this year. When the board passed this in December, there was discussion about moving that date, and then the Governance Committee took action at their meeting in February and decided to just move that meeting and the following meeting dates back 1 week. So that means the Board of Directors meeting moves from September 11th to September 18th, And subcommittee and council meetings that followed that date also moved back 1 week. That looks like this, if you want to see the whole calendar. So once again, we're asking you to approve Resolution 2026-017, which adopts a revised schedule for calendar year 2026 for NOACA meetings.
Okay. Motion, second, okay.
So there is the issue that has been brought up to me recently of the June board meeting as well. In order to effect a change for the June board meeting, we would have to swap the board meeting date with the subcommittee's date because there is a holiday on that Friday in between. And I know that we probably don't have enough information to really make that decision today. I needed to bring it up and perhaps, I don't know if you want to give, I don't know how to legally handle it.
Somebody would have to make a motion. I mean, procedurally, somebody would have to make a motion to amend this resolution to add the June change. There'd be a vote on that, then the resolution would go forward with the two changes for an up and down vote.
It is just, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Quick question, that the date that would be changed in June, it would go from the 12th to the 5th, or it would go from the 12th to the 26th?
To the 26th.
Okay, the 5th isn't an option?
It is not, well, I
It
mean,
just
we
seems
have,
like that might throw off less things because there's only the two smaller subcommittee meetings that date. That's the only reason I asked the question.
right.
And our advisory councils on the 5th.
Right. I missed the other color-coded section there. Sorry about that.
So either way, we have to move something because of the holiday. That's why, again, when we put the calendar together, we try to take everything into account. But sometimes it doesn't work that way. And again, this was a request because several members of the board will be participating in a meeting in Washington.
So we'd be moving it to June 26th.
Liz, that's the recommendation of staff, is to move it to the 26th.
I was just consulting with Ed May about, because what we know we have planned for that June meeting is the potential plan amendment, if that has an impact. And what else might be going in June? The, proposed proposed projects? Just plan and tip amendments. Sorry.
Gives them 2 more weeks.
Staff can accommodate whatever the board prefers.
But keeping in mind, the things that we're talking about there are for the next quarter's plans, so they would not impact the board meeting in June. Those would be in preparation for the board meeting in September, those actions that would be taken at Transportation Subcommittee.
So there's comfort then internally to move it to the 26th. We wouldn't be, maybe being at the end of the month wouldn't be a problem. It sounds
I'll
like.
look again to Ed to make sure I've captured that correctly. I know it puts a little bit more stress on you to have materials prepared for Transportation Subcommittee, but it doesn't, that doesn't impact the board items that you need approved in September.
These two.
Now, anyway, just for what it's worth, we will be processing the plan and tip amendment for the Brook Park project beginning in March for the Transportation Subcommittee, culminating in a board action in June.
With this Transportation Subcommittee that goes to September, is there any issue with moving that up 2 weeks?
I don't believe so, no, not that I could think of.
Because that meeting was already the Transportation Subcommittee was already scheduled to be after the board meeting.
Correct, the March.
Right.
Transportation Subcommittee is on the 20th.
So the Transportation Subcommittee meeting in June was expected to produce actions for the board meeting in September.
That's what would happen.
Right.
Yeah, that's typically
So
how
I
it goes.
don't think there's any impact procedurally for the board. It's really a matter of staff will have to have materials for Transportation Committee done 2 weeks earlier. On the other hand, staff will have a 2-week reprieve for having board materials done.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
in light of that, and I believe since Medina County is the host of the June meeting, we want to have all of our friends from Cuyahoga County well represented. So I would move for action the amendment to the motion to move the board meeting from June 12 to June 26, and then make the corresponding move with the subcommittee dates as recommended by staff.
Is there a second? Okay, second motion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay,
Well, hold on. So now we have to do the amended resolution?
what about the first one?
Sorry? No. We need to, Commissioner Harrison's motion was to amend the proposed resolution to include the June change with the previously identified September change. Now that that motion to amend is passed, we'll vote on the whole resolution as amended.
Okay. There a motion to that now? Okay, so move.
Second.
Okay. Motion is made and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
And thank you, Commissioner Harrison, for acknowledging and reminding us that we will be having the June board meeting in Medina County.
I did confirm.
Yes, okay. Now we'll go into 11. Now we'll go to item 11. Is there any new business?
Oh, there's one more action.
One
under
more
old
action,
business.
okay, sorry.
Resolution 2026-018 is a revised 2026 Board Committee, Subcommittee, and Council membership. This came to you in January at the organizational meeting, as it does every year. There was a list at your seat of a couple changes that we received since its initial passage, which included some named alternates for board members, as well as some vacancies that have been filled. And the NOACA's Code of Regulations requires that the board approve the membership list. So if there are changes to board members, committees, subcommittees, we do have to bring it back to you.
And I will say that this is an unusual action. Usually the January one is filled and appropriately passed with the members. But because of the Code of Regulation changes early in January, we really did not have the time, or in some cases, board members did not have the recommendations that we needed for that January board approval. So we're making this amendment.
So the action is to approve Resolution 2026-018, which approves new and revised members for NOACA's Board of Directors, Standing Committees, Subcommittees, and Councils.
Motion? Seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair. We had an addition to add for Medina County to the Rural Advisory Committee. Can we just make that, suggest that name now? It was to add Sarah Polling, Polling.
Terrific, thank you.
To the Rural Advisory Subcommittee. She's the Chatham Township Fiscal Officer, so I just wanted to, we had chatted about that beforehand, I just want to make sure it's reflected.
Well, now that information's public, so that's good. That's good. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now we're getting into new business. Everything good? Everything good?
Yeah, we'll accept that as an amended resolution with the addition of the name by Commissioner Harrison.
Okay, thank you. Item 11, new business. Is there any new business? None. Public comment? No public comment. So now we'll go back to executive session.
Somebody will have to make a second.
Okay, I need a motion to go in executive session for the purpose of,
For the purpose of discussing pending litigation in 5 minutes or less.
okay?
Oh, did we take, yeah, we, wait a minute.
Roll call.
We need a motion, a second, and a roll call. Thank you.
Motion,
Wait a minute. Kumar?
okay. Any discussion on going in executive session? All in favor?
Oh, I have to.
Roll call. We're gonna do roll call.
Are people leaving?
We're gonna do roll call to go in executive session, so if you're standing, just, yell
Okay.
back at us.
And if I
Uh,
can have
Mayor
staff start
Bradley.
leaving the room?
Okay. Commissioner Brackey, Mayor Brubaker. He left, okay. Mary Serby, Andy Conrad, Mayor Corcoran, Trustee Cunningham, Mayor DeGeter, Jim DeRosa,
Yes.
Michael Dever. He left too. Commissioner Dvorak,
Here, yes.
Mayor Holzheimer Gale, Commissioner Harrison, Andy Hawk, Nat Hiscock, Trustee Chris Cosman, Callie Merseman,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan,
Yes.
Matt Moss,
Yes.
John Pecuri, Mission Fletcher Glove. Okay, Mayor Thomas, did she leave? Yeah. Okay, Julie Bellich. Yes. Bonnie T-Win. Yes. Kevin Malachek. Please, no, okay. Bob Kleiber. Jim Heron. Angela Jones. Linda Sternheimer. Thomas Patrick.
Yes.
Joseph Nanny.
Yes.
Councilman Conwell. Okay. Don Gall. Debbie Berry. Mayor Kumar.
Yes.
Did I miss anyone? Yeah, yeah, I called you too, Heron. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we're good.
Yeah, Jim Heron from Mayor Matt
Results?
Costelli.
Yeah. It's unanimous or very, very close.
So, gang, I asked for a very short executive session just to touch on the Skip Claypool actions. He's back with his third swing at a complaint against NOACA in Geauga County. The